Peace.
One of the top promoters in New Jersey and across the country. And you know what we do here. We talk about mass incarceration. We talk about making change inside those institutions, inside those prisons. And the reason I brought Messiah here, because Messiah was a brother I was inspired by, who went to the feds, did a 10-year stint, came home, changed his life, built his organizations, his companies. And I want to talk about how, as a young child, growing up in the city of Newark and coming to the point where he built these businesses and he's employing people in our community. Hey, how you doing, Messiah?
All right, good. I just want to correct one thing. I did 4 years in the state, 6 years in the feds. So it's like 10 and a half, really. So 4.5 and then 6.
They usually,
it's the same.
Using that penitentiary.
Yeah, they're both, yeah.
You know, the one thing I usually do when I have my guests, and Messiah, one reason I don't call everybody here to my show, and the reason I chose you was because you came home, and I remember when you first came home, cats threw your little party, and you said, man, I'm on my grind. And I watched you go from taking the little money, whatever you had from when you left, and building what you building. And I even came to some of your events. I just watched your premiere with your hair salon. I know you're shooting movies and doing very different things. But I wanted to talk about growing up in Newark, right? And how you as a young brother growing up in Newark, how it transpired that you wind up ending up in the state and federal penitentiary.
Well, that's it all started with my parents, really. They was uneducated. That's number one. So they gave me the name, a slave master name. So I took upon that slave master name, and I'm running the streets. I'll say I was about like 7, 8 years old. We on Chadwick Avenue, by the way, 100 Chadwick Avenue. Right, I was young. So we went from 100 Chadwick Avenue to 2 Osborne Terrace. So through that process, it was more like we eating syrup sandwiches, sugar bread, lights is out. I'm talking about this is consistently. We might have the lights on for a couple of months and then it's back out. And no heat, and we was going through a lot. So I used to be so upset. And I'd be like, why we living like this? I couldn't figure out why we living like this, because I'm thinking of a mindset of an 8-year-old. So thinking of a mindset of a 7, 8-year-old, it ain't really registering to put it all together. All I know is I'm hurting, stomach hurting, I'm hurting, going to school bummy. So I'm like, wow, what could I do to change this? It was nothing for me to change at that time. I couldn't think of nothing. So one time I asked my mother, I said, yo, why daddy ain't here no more? Like, why he ain't here no more? With daddy? And she's like, oh, yeah, this is like, I say I was about 9 maybe at this time. And she was like, oh, things ain't work out, fuck Joe. And I'm like, oh, all right, like, I still don't really understand. So I would go to my grandmother's house in Irvington where he stayed on the weekend and see him. But there's no communication. I say, hey, Dad. And he don't give me no communication.
No,
so
not even hello.
No, he was just say, he was like, hey boy. He'd say that, hey boy. That's it. And he would tell me, don't trust the pink man. That's his only words to me forever.
The pink man. What was the pink man?
The pink man he considers the Caucasian man.
Okay.
So he would say that. He said, don't trust the pink man. And he'd just say, hey boy, whatever you do, don't trust the pink man. That's all he would say, and that's it. Now remember the mindset of a 9-year-old, now I'm 10, 11, so they still ain't registering. So I'm like, man, fuck this, I get tired of being broke and messed up. So we moved to Irvington.
Can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
And I want you to start. Was your father an educated man? Did he have any education?
Nah, he was a carpenter. And he mastered carpentry and numbers, and he mastered all that plumbing. He could do everything by himself. Plumbing, electricity, he did all that by himself. He didn't go to school for it. He just took books. And in the books, he would work off of that. And he was able to do all of this build stuff. Like,
oh, so it was just, he just was great with his hands?
Yeah, he was great with his hands and his mind.
Because the reason I asked that, because in my experience, and I want to hear more of your experience more. That's why you be here. But I had to research my father and figure out why my father was the way he was, and why he wasn't in the house and stuff like that. And I had to learn his experiences and what he went through, and his experience was the reason he treated me the way he treated me, and why he wasn't there in the household. And then, so go on with that. That's why I asked that question.
Yeah, well, my father didn't like the simple fact. I found out later when I was about 14, he didn't like the fact that my mother's sisters told her to put him on welfare.
Right.
And he was hated behind that.
Yeah.
So he like, you gonna put me in the system because you're just sisters? And that's what they fallout was.
Right.
So from that point on, since I was like 8 or 9, he left. I'm talking about he left the house. He ain't come to the house no more. I would see him over at my grandmother's house. So he didn't never buy me nothing, never did nothing, no nothing. I was on my own.
Right.
So my mother, he thought he was suffering, punishing my mother for doing that. But he was really punishing his kids.
Right.
Because I got 4 sisters and I'm the only boy.
And that had to be crazy, not growing up with a father.
Right. So it was more like, every time I needed something, there was nobody there I could talk to. There was nobody there for me to, of course I had cousins and all that, but they was going through what they was going through.
Right.
When we hooked up, we would talk about it in the dark or something.
Right.
And we hate when the street lights come on.
Right.
So we know what time it is.
Right.
Go light candles, go get the stuff ready. I would go get wood and put it in a little metal pot that they got at the hospital, because my grandmother worked at the hospital, the VA hospital. So she would take these big metal pots that they have food in.
Okay.
And I would go get the wood. Now I get wood, I get tree branches, put it in there so we can have heat. So heat and light.
Wow.
Yeah. So so now it was. I say this too. Nobody wanted to come stay with me at my house because as far as my cousin though, because I was like 8, 9 years old, still peeing in the bed.
Right.
Yeah, I was still peeing in the bed. So we couldn't have no.
A lot of them won't share that.
Yeah, they ain't gonna share that. But I didn't stop peeing in the bed till I was like 15, I think.
Wow.
15, yeah. One of my baby mothers will tell you. So it's like. Oh, so
you had a baby at 15?
No, I'm just saying she knew about it.
Okay.
Just being around.
Okay.
Always. Yeah.
Okay, I was about to say, because some of us had babies at 15.
Yeah, 15 years. But that was the joke. Like, so the order for me to spend the night over my cousin's house, right? I'm skipping some stuff, but in order to spend the night over my cousin's house, what happened was my aunt used to say, now you can spend the night, but you're going to have to put on a pamper.
Right.
Now at this time I'm 13.
Right. Wow.
So I'm like, a pamper? I ain't putting on no pamper. She said, well, you ain't spending the night. So I would have to put on the Loves. These Loves was rocking back then. Put on the Loves to go to bed. Right. So I was still peeing in the bed.
Right.
So it still get some on the bed a little bit, just a little. And I was like, I couldn't fix the problem. I don't know what problem I had. So I had nobody to go to and talk like, I'm going through this.
Like your father, yeah.
Right. To keep up my hygienes. None of that.
Right.
None of that. I was doing this all on my own. So I said, you know what? I was in the 4th grade. So I said, man, I ain't going to school no more. So I ain't go to school no more. This is real talk. So I stopped going to school in the 4th grade. I dropped out. Yeah, dropped out in the 4th grade. This facts. It got me. They said I graduated from somewhere in Patterson.
Right.
But they have no idea. Because when I stopped going to school, computers and all that wasn't even around.
Wow. So nobody had no records.
Right. They had no records, so they didn't know what the fuck I dropped off the earth somewhere. So they didn't know none of that.
So Messiah, you dropped out in 4th grade.
Yeah, so
4th grade. There's a study that says that is when most of your education is different.
True. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what happened after that?
So once I dropped out of school, I had these guys out there, not gonna mention names, no name dropping. So over there on Ellis, guy was like, yo, Ellis and Hopkins and Irvington. So he like, yo, watch my stash, I give you $20. When I go in and out of the store and make sales, just make sure none of these fiends, take my shit right there.
Right.
So I would do it.
Right.
So, at the end of the day, boom, I get $20.
Right.
So I said, oh shit, I was eating, $20 back in the early 80s.
That's a lot. For a kid. In 4th grade.
Yeah. No, so I was like about 12, maybe I was 12, I was out there already.
But $20 a lot.
Right. So now actually, I'm like, yo, so I'll buy me something to
for
eat.
$1, you get 100 cookies.
Yeah.
With the coconut cookies.
Yeah, at this time, cigarettes was like 65 cents, something like that.
Right.
Cigarettes was cheap.
Right.
They like $10 to $11 right now.
Right.
So, and I was buying food and everything. I was getting back all this check. I was still having money.
Right.
So I'm like, oh, so doing that every day, I saved up a couple $100.
Right.
So now I was able to buy clothes,
Right.
sneakers. So I felt good. So all I need to do is find a place where I can shower. So when my aunt is asleep, my cousin would sneak me in so I could take a shower.
Wow.
Because in there I stay out there musty and dirty
Right.
drawers, dirty clothes. Because I ain't really had nowhere to go. I was running. My
Right.
mother, I wasn't going over there to my mother's house. Because if I go there, she's gonna make me stay there to go to school the next day. That's not happening. Because I want a better life.
So where was Mom at?
My mother was across town. She was in East Orange.
So what was her concerns about you 12, 13 years old?
She would be upset and trying to get me to come back, but my mind was made up. I didn't want to live like that no more. I ain't the dark and
Right.
all that.
Every
Nah.
day, yeah.
I didn't want to live like that. You know, I had holes in my sneakers. I used to take duct tape. I don't know if y'all remember these sneakers
Yeah.
called jumps.
Yeah, I remember.
It looked like felines,
Right.
but I had those jumps, so it was peeling like talking.
You could buy them in the grocery store.
Yeah.
Right.
I would put gum all up in there and try to get it to stay down, and then I would duct tape it the front, and that was it. That's how I did. That's how I did it.
So that started your hustling then.
Yeah, that started my hustle.
So
again.
when did you? So you hustling now. So when did you transpire to start being? Because at one point we hustle and then we move into our own world and start hustling for ourselves.
Yeah, I can tell you that too. I'm gonna finish this up though. Well, as I was there watching the stashes, right? It was weed and all that. So once I was doing that, getting the $20 a day, I saved up a few $100, bought clothes and
Right.
deodorant, hygiene stuff, right? So now I figured after about 6, 7 months of doing that,
Right.
you know, my aunt said, no, you can't come here no more.
Right.
So I'm like, why? I ain't did nothing wrong. She
Right.
said, no, you over there watching they stashes, selling drugs. I said, no, I'm not. I'm lying, of course. So I'm like, no, I'm not. So she told me you can't come no more. You gotta go back home. So that's what sent me back home. But I didn't stay long. So when I went back home, now I'm not making that money no more.
Right.
I'm in East Orange on 118th Street. Shout out to Tretch and all of them. So I'm right down the street from them. So I said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Western Beef. It's a Western Beef over there.
Right.
So I went to Western Beef early in the morning, and I'm doing bags and stuff, making money that way. So I would make all that money, get little candy and all that stuff that I take or whatever, and I would put it in my closet. My mother would always put me in the closet. This is facts, true story. I still love her, but I grew up living in a closet. My whole family know this story.
Wow.
Because I peed in the bed. So I would live in the closet, and my legs would be halfway out the closet.
Right.
Some of my body in it, it's too small for me. So now at this point, I'm like, I'm gonna save up my money. So I start saving my money, get a knock on the door.
Right.
It's diapers. So diapers get involved. Oh, he gotta come to school. He gotta da-da-da-da. So now I'm like, oh man, now I'm busted. So now they got me. My mother's like, you gonna go to school? So I go to school. So they put me in because I had a gap, a big gap from the 4th grade. Maybe I was 11, 12, whatever it was. But now that gap I had, they put me in Bloomfield Academy. Right? So they put me in Bloomfield Academy catching the yellow bus.
Right.
So as I'm catching the yellow bus, they had this program there with candy bars, granola bars, Twix. They used to just give us.
Right.
So I thought a way of how to make money.
Right.
I was still a damn whole box. Still get on the yellow bus, wait for it to sell it to my mother, my sisters,
Right.
their friends,
Right.
everybody there.
Right.
Because once the stores closed in these stores, that was it.
Right.
You want snacks?
Right.
I'm here. So I would sell that, and I was still going to Western Beef.
Right.
So after that, I said, you know what? I said, man, forget all of this. I don't want to go to school because I felt as though school was hindering me.
Right.
So I left that alone. And when I left it alone, I went back over to Irvington. When I went back over to Irvington, getting into a whole bunch of trouble, I said, you know what? I just want to get money. And that's when it clicked to get money. And then I began to evolve into, to become a millionaire. I just started getting money. And I started getting money. I'm not going to say what the person name, but you know who the person is. So, I'm not going to name call. But me and that individual, we started getting money. And things just went for the better.
Right.
And now I was able to help everybody in my family. I was doing all kinds of things. I felt as though I could buy anything.
Okay.
When I had that money, I felt as though I could buy the mall, I could buy this. That's how I felt.
When I was going into all the crimes and the situations that you went through. When you got first picked up,
From the state, because I did a state bid. That was the shooting and stuff.
okay, who was the first phone call to? Because Dad wasn't there, Mom wasn't there. Who?
When I first got locked up for the shooting, I had a shootout with a dude. Like it was right there on Hopkins and Ellis. You know, he pulled the gun out. Situation stuff went left.
Right.
So he tried to play us out. Oh, you know how to act, all this stuff. So in my mind, I'm like, you know, this is not the old man that's from.
Right.
Not the little. I'm totally different now.
Right.
I said so. I said you don't want to do that. So he's still talking. Y'all know how to act when we around here. Because they were from 21st Street,
Right.
from Hopkins and Ellis, only one block from each other.
Right.
And you know, by him pulling the gun out, I'm like, yo, listen, man. The average Joe can't handle no beef with me.
Right.
Not with me. I know this for a fact.
Right.
And I'm gonna put some hot shit in your head.
Right.
This is me.
Right.
So he's like, oh. So when he pointed the gun like this towards me,
Right.
I said, oh, he's out here doing any type of beef. I said, oh, all right. So while he got his gun, I reached for mine and said, let's start it up. And I hit him. Boom. So when I hit him, boom, he dropped the gun. Yeah, it burned. I said, well, you was a fag. So I went up to his man and put it to his head. So when I put it to his head, my cousin and my brother, they grabbed the gun and then it goes up. It just like skins them.
Yeah.
So boom, now I'm in the mix. I'm running, trying to get the fuck away,
Right.
and I get locked up. When I got locked up, I didn't call anybody. They knew, you know, they was all out there. Everybody was outside.
Right.
So I didn't call anybody. They already knew I was locked up. So what happened was my brother bailed me out.
Right.
Because I had a little bit of money, so he put up the bail. He put up the bail to get me out, and that was that. Then I had to go on and I did like 4 years for that.
So, and then you turned around and you went back.
Yeah, and then I came home from doing that time, and that's when I had blew up, became a millionaire after that. I had left that part out, not the shooting, but that part is what happened. I went and did that time, came home, and because everybody was scared of me at that time, because I was doing a lot of shit, I'm not going to talk about that, but I was playing. So at that particular time, everybody was so shook.
Yeah.
They're like, man. So my cousin told me, he said, look, everybody respect you, cuz I'm telling you, you get some shit right now, you make a lot of money. I said, man, get out of here. He said, I'm telling you. I said, all right, get the shit for me. So he give me the weed, he give me the drugs. So I started giving people packs. I didn't know how to bag it up. He started showing me. So I started giving them packs. They was coming back correct. He said, I told you. So everywhere I'm going, I'm making money.
Right.
So I'm like, oh shit, you was right. The respect was there.
Right.
So I'm like, okay. So before you know it, I just bubbled. It just went out of control. And I hooked up with you know who. My man, your man.
Right.
And we just went to a total different level with it. Like,
Right.
I'm talking about, we went to a level that, you know, a lot of people weren't on our level.
Right. Well, I know that. But my thing is that when you was down that prison system for the last bit, the second bit, the way you did the 6
The
years,
last.
when you did the 6 in the feds,
Right, that.
like, what transpired in your mind that when I come home, I was going to make I'm going to be a different man? Because, you know, a lot of guys come home and they go right back to what they used to.
Right. Well.
And I watch you come home and I watch you steam floors. A guy that was making a ton of money at one time, come home and got what's the name of that company?
Stanley Steamer.
Stanley Steamer. And I used to look at you, and you used to always tell me, no, I'm doing this shit the right way.
Yeah.
So what turned your mind to?
Being in the joint, right? Being in the pen. What happened was, it was more of like, as far as the visits, couldn't get the visit away from my kids. Right. It was the visits away from my kids, and on top of that, being in that environment, right? I was walking. Shout out to Peace to the Gods. So I was walking. I was with everybody.
That's where you get your name, Messiah.
No, Messiah I got for myself. I call myself God, not the Most High God, but I call myself God.
Okay.
Well, not call myself. I am God.
Right.
So I was walking with the gods, the nation of gods and earth.
Right.
So I was learning a lot from them. They was teaching me.
Right.
So I couldn't join nothing because I looked at myself as God, and I'm like, I'm all of this. Like I can't. So remind you with the 4th grade education, I knew I was part of everything.
Right.
and it's up to me to control it.
Right.
I control it.
Right.
It's up to me to make it go left, right, straight.
Right.
It's up to me. I got that free will to do that. So while I'm in there, the guys is doing like, you can't call yourself Messiah, and then you sit there, you praying like this. Who you talking to? You know, and they would do stuff like that to get at me, and I'm like, I'm talking to that pure energy.
Yeah.
That pure energy. He said, like God, like what do you mean, Allah? Yeah. They was being sarcastic.
That's why some brothers need to listen to Brand Newbie.
Yeah. So yeah. So
you know what I'm talking about, that song they say, true to be God.
The Brand Newbies. I know. So it's like, so on top of that, I'm like, yo, you know, they keep coming at me. So when I went to my cell, you know, I'm already furious. I want out of here. I don't want to, man, I'm not doing none of this no more, blah, 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 unless I have to.
Right.
And my back against the wall, I'm a man. I'm not laying down.
Right.
I got to do what I got to do.
Right.
So, you know, but if I don't have to do it, I'm going to try to do it the right way.
Right.
So now I come out the next day and I said, you know what, I got something. When I went in my cell, I said, I got something for them. So when I saw them the next day, peace to True Boy Mala, he was the one schooling me. He was Spanish guy. Shout out to him. And shout out to Infinite. So I said to him, I said, yo, well, you know, you asked me yesterday, you know, who am I praying to and all this stuff. I said, you know, you're saying you're the God.
Right.
So he was like, yeah, there ain't no spooky stuff going on here. I said, okay, I can ask you a couple questions. He said, yeah, speak, God. So I said, well, since you God, there's a few of them around. I said, can you tell me the beginning and the ending of the universe, God? See, they was being sarcastic to me just yesterday.
Right.
So now I'm coming back.
Right.
So they all out there like, come on, God, like, come on, Messiah. Come on, nobody knows the beginning and end of the universe.
Right.
I said, well, you know, that pure energy, that God,
right.
that person that you said, who am I praying to?
Right.
That person do,
right.
that person knows. So now I'll get out of here, this, that, and the third. And I said, well, how do you look at this? I said, you know, when you talk about that pure energy, it's like taking a cord that's on the floor and you plug it into the socket. When you plug it into the socket, that TV is already spiritually dead.
Right.
When you plug it in the socket, what happens?
Right.
I said, it gives light, right? It's life.
Right.
You can see everything about it. I said, but when you snatch the socket out, you see that energy, that pure energy go back to which it came.
Right.
So you got to play with it. You will see the spark. You got to play with it. And then it'll go right back.
Right.
And then the TV become back spiritually dead.
Okay.
I said, so that energy is who I pray to. So he's like, oh, this is. So we used to go through a lot of stuff on the compound, Otisville. So now, going through all of the stuff that was going on in the penitentiary, you know, from the fights to the knife fights, and you know, they going at people with bad paperwork and shit, right? So now, as all that going on, I'm like, yo, I don't want to go through this no more. Right. So I came up with a plan. I said, when I come home, and try to do it the right way. Right. So now, I actually came home. I started doing that, as you saw. Right. So did I deviate a little bit? Yes, I'm guilty. Right. I deviated a little bit, only for like 2 years. I deviated to get, you know, I got a little money, and I said, you know what? People know me. I'm popular. You know, I took on the party promoting thing. Yeah. So I went for the party. Shout out to my team, Black Diamond. Yeah. So I took from the party promoting scene.
Who named the Black Diamond?
My partner Bo. Shout out to Big Bo.
Okay. Cause I hear about him all the time.
Yeah. Big Bo, Dre, you know, Kev the Great. So you know, so what happened was, you know, I started taking all these parties, and I'm like, hold on. So we counting 30,000, 80,000. Now we breaking it up, and I said, I don't need to sell drugs or to commit crime. I could just stick to this. So what I did was I said, and I'm gonna go back and get another job. Right. So I'm doing the parties, and I went, and that's when I got the Stanley Steamer job. So I'm doing Stanley Steamer work, you know, cleaning carpet, mattress, all that kind of stuff. So and I stayed doing the parties. Right. So now as I'm doing that, I'm like, yo, I gotta get a business. Right. So if I could get a business and get some property and stuff like that, so I talked to my brother. My brother said, all right, I said, y'all, I found this house.
Yeah, because your brother is a real estate
guru. Yeah, real estate guru. So my brother, I asked him for $130,000. He gave that to me. So now my PO and I'm like, oh, you know, where you get this from? Federal PO. So I said, well, y'all already know where I get this from. Like, you know, so he said y'all would do that. And his car, he said, call him. So he looked and he said, oh, you always hiding behind your brother. You hiding behind somebody. The PO said, just give me a copy to the deed of the house. Right? So boom. So now he give me back the card and all that. So I'm Gucci. Right. Because they see where I got the money from. Right. So now I'm like, yo, all right, I got the house. I said, so now if I can maintain this house, me and my cousin, shout out to my cousin Mama. So I said, if I can maintain this house, all I gotta do is keep investing.
Right.
Keep investing.
Right.
Not talking about legit. Just
Right.
keep trying to stay legit. Something will pop.
Right.
So the only thing that was really popping consistently was the party promoters.
Right.
Because I'm doing it twice out the week.
Right.
And I'm walking away with 1,500,
Right.
3,000. This is every week.
Yeah.
I'm making more than my job.
Right.
And I still didn't quit my job
Yeah.
because my ambition,
Yeah.
I just don't want to go back to jail.
You invited me to twice, 2 of your parties I came to.
Yeah.
I came to one in Elizabeth.
Yeah.
You had about 500-600 people.
You came to the North Waterfront too, right? Oh no. You didn't come to that one?
No, I met, no, I didn't.
Okay.
You know, one time I came to one of your parties, I didn't even know you was the promoter. I just saw a long line and I came up and you was at the door.
Yeah.
In the union. And you told me, everybody was mad because you told me, come on in, don't worry about it, they should be mad. Right, and so, you remember it was in union?
Yeah, I remember.
And you gave me bottles for $100.
Yeah.
So, listen, nobody, when you ever done that, gave me a $100 bottle.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I know they $250. So the thing is that, and I appreciate that, but, so you started doing that, right? And then you just dropped the hair salon.
Right. So I opened up a hair salon. My cousin been doing it. Shout out to Tanya. She been doing it for like 28 years.
Right.
So what I did was I said, well, you know, I went to my brother once again to get a loan. So I said, well, you know, what I could do is, because I could get you your own shop. But she said, well, how you gonna do that? How you gonna be? I said, well, this is how we do this contract. I'll be the promoter of the shop, marketing the hair, and trying to get people there to come to the salon to get their hair done. So I will be responsible for marketing.
Right. And which is very important.
Right. And I said, and I will be responsible for getting the cash.
Right.
And that will make me and you 50-50. Even though you have almost 400 clients, she's loaded with clients. So she felt like, she said, but I got all of the clients, and I said, but you don't have the money. You don't have the money. You need the money.
Plus,
I can get you the money.
Plus, the other hairstylists gonna make you money.
Yeah, and plus the other
so you keep her money.
Right.
The other hairstylists.
Right. So in our contract, she agreed. I agreed, and we got the salon. And shout out to the mayor of Union. You know,
because I saw your premiere.
Mrs. Douglas.
I saw your premiere. I saw it online.
My bad, not Miss Douglas. Her name is I forgot, Dr. Delaford. Dr. Delaford's daughter in Union. She's the mayor.
Okay.
He actually took care of me when I was a little baby.
Okay.
He was my doctor.
Okay.
I was a little crybaby, y'all.
So it's so funny how like I had Mustafa Sanders on here. He had moms that did 5 years. His brother facing life. Other brother 20. He did 7. So he had a generation of individuals who've been incarcerated. And every time, because when I started this show here, a brother asked me, I wrote a book called Mass Incarceration. And in the book Mass Incarceration, I took from a lot of statistics from the federal government, the state, different writers, and I took and put all these statistics together and talked about how blacks, Hispanics, and indigenous people are being incarcerated throughout the country and the world. And that in America, that we have the largest prison population in the world, and the majority are brothers of color, like yourself. And every time I hear the story, I'm hearing some of the things that you tapped on: miseducation, lack of parenting. And the thing is, so I like the fact that you shared your story, but this is what I want you to do before we close out, Messiah. I want you to look into the camera, and I want you to share with these young brothers on how the foolishness of putting themselves in the position of being in that penitentiary.
Yeah. Well, what they would have to do first, I would say this, to all the young brothers, all the young sisters out there. First, what they need to do, y'all need to find, I would say, I don't care if it's an uncle, auntie, a best friend, any type of relative that's doing something positive, you want to stay around them. You want to stay around all people that's doing positive things. Anybody that's doing negative things is a no-go. Because when you're around that environment, you become a product of that environment. That's all facts. So you gotta put yourself in places where opportunity can present itself for you to better your situation, your life, and if you got kids, so forth, so forth. So for all of the kids, if you 10 years old, 11 years old, and you don't have a mother and father that's there because they probably on drugs, same thing applies. You go to family members that's doing things good and things of that nature. And when you're around, that opportunity comes. Why I say that? Because when you broke and you surround yourself around people with money, you eventually start having money. That's just a fact.
Yeah, well, thanks, Messiah.
Yeah.
I appreciate you. And you can check Messiah at
Messiah the Poet. And that's on Instagram, Messiah_the_DA_poet.
And you check him out. The brother does a lot of positive things. I love this show, and he got this statement that he always say.
You should have chose me, but you chose otherwise. That's all the queens out there.
No, the other one you said. You dig?
Oh, you did? It's your Messiah.
No,
you did?
Yeah, I love it. I watch him all the time. Again, we're here. This is a call from the penitentiary. We bring brothers like Messiah in here who went to the federal penitentiary, state penitentiaries, came home, changed their life, and took themselves and bubbled up to the high. Again, this is Big Sleep, the call from the penitentiary. Peace.